Hello. I'm joking. Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more episode of Talking Times. Today we're gonna have a very interesting
I'm joking.
conversation
Hello,
about law,
everyone.
same-sex
Welcome to
marriage,
one more
and
episode
a
of Talking
long
Times.
journey how to learn English.
Teaching
Today we're
English
gonna
and
have a very interesting
I'm joking.
conversation
Hello,
about law,
everyone.
same-sex
Welcome to
marriage,
one more
and
episode
a
of Talking
long
Times.
journey how to learn
Teaching
English. Today we're
English
gonna
and
have a very
I'm
interesting
joking.
conversation
Hello,
about law,
everyone.
same-sex
Welcome to
marriage,
one more
and
episode
a
of
long
Talking
journey
Times.
how to learn English.
Teaching
Hello, Gustavo. Welcome, man.
Hey, thanks a lot.
And it's such an interesting phenomenon. I never know what I'm gonna say at the intro until I'm already saying it. I like to live it dangerously, you know. Well, before we start, Gustavo, please introduce yourself to us.
Well, my name is Gustavo Costa. I'm from Goiânia, and I've been passionate about English since I understand myself as a human being. So I started studying when I was 8 years old by the year of 2000. And I always loved the language. I always loved to listen to music, to watch films and this kind of stuff. And by the year of 2007, when I was just 15 years old, I started teaching. So I've been doing this for 18 years by the end of this year. It's something that I love. And I'm already how can I say? I would like to say another word, but I am gonna say passionate about what
Mm.
I do. I think that teachers usually they have a gift. So I'm been doing other things in my life. So I've graduated in law, in languages. Now I'm studying social sciences, and I've been entrepreneur as well because by the year of 2019, I started working here at Times, and by 2022, I decided to have a school, a Times school, and I'm here so far.
That's amazing. And man, that's a lot to cover. Law, social sciences, and languages too in general. So each of these has their own, path and a lot of stuff that we can cover. But let's start with the beginning. Uh, when I know it's tough to remember, but what is the oldest memory that you have involving English? Was it a movie or like a song or a game that you were playing? Said, well, this doesn't sound like Portuguese, and what's up with that? And then, oh, I have to learn this.
Well, it for sure song because I love music. I'm a fan of music, and because I have an influence of my parents, I've I've always loved international music, especially from the 80s. So I kind of started my interest about English to understand the lyrics about the songs, you know. So for sure, music is the first memory I have.
Nice. This is something we share in common. I was just telling this story about me trying to become a rock star. Such a silly dream, but okay. Before that was a soccer player, all the cliches, and listening to Iron Maiden songs and trying to get the. We didn't have internet back then, believe me or
Yeah.
not, Gen Z. Yes, I am old, and then I was with the CD cover and checking the lyrics and trying to repeat and sync up the with the song, tough thing, but that
I
was a sparkle
understand
there.
you. I understand you because my father is a big fan of rock music. So my
Nice.
references are Queen, Pink Floyd, Scorpions, this old stuff, you know.
Nice. And okay, so then when you were a kid, you started to have this passion for the language. And you mentioned you started teaching when you were 15, but you were still a student when you started that.
Yes, I was a student. I was taking my proficiency course,
Okay,
and to have a discount on my course, I asked the school if I could teach some classes.
that's
And
clever. But
well, yes. And my
it's
dis
bold too. You need to have the skill to do that.
yes, sure. And I didn't have all the amount of discount I would like to have by that time, but I had a 50% scholarship. So it helped
Nice.
my parents to save a little money. And then I started being a monitor by when I was 15. So I started there. And then in the next year, I started as a teacher,
Okay.
receiving a salary and this kind of thing.
Man, that's so your first job as a teacher, how old were you? Like 16, 17, something like this?
16 years old, 16.
Man, it's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. Uh, when I was 16 years old, I said this already. I was still having hopes that I would become a Super Saiyan or maybe have the power to use the Force. Maybe I wasn't a very mature teenager, but anyways, no, I was already working too, but in another job. It's a topic for another episode. Anyways, uh, my name is Mike, and it's not a coincidence. I'm joking. It was not doing this type of stuff. But come on. But let's get focused here. So, what was the first difference that you noticed, Gustavo, uh, becoming a teacher, comparing to the time you were like a student? Something changed, or was it the same? Or maybe you said, when I was learning, I like it. That teacher that used to do this, I thought it was a fact. And what was the first thing you noticed about these two
Well,
things?
it absolutely changed because I always tell this to my students when because okay, we're still going to talk about that, but
Mm-hmm.
I take care of the commercial area in my school,
Mm-hmm.
and I always say this on my speeches to my students that when I was a student, I didn't have the obligation to know about the topic I was going to study.
Mm-hmm.
So in the class, and because I studied in a traditional school, I didn't have the care to look before the subject, and because I wasn't obliged to do that. So when I became a teacher, I didn't have this option. I should really know about the topic I was going to teach to my students. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have a good class. I wouldn't give a good class. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the main difference that I noticed. And of course, that with 18 years, almost 18 years of experience, I still think that I am a learner because, for example, I teach to my students a technique in which they don't memorize the verb tenses anymore. I teach this technique that is in summary. Ask I ask them to pay attention to the structure of the verbs in a sentence. So, for example, when I say I am a teacher, how many verbs we have in this sentence? We have just one verb. So, what verb tense is this? Is the simple, because it's just one verb, simple, present, because the verb is in the present. But for example, if I say I am working, how many verbs we have in the sentence? We have two verbs. What is the name of this verb tense? Present, because am is verb to be in the present. Working is verb with ing. Verb with ing is in the gerund. It gives the idea of continuity. And now, when I have in a sentence a verb in the gerund, I have continuous in the verb tense. So I have the present continuous. How many verbs I have? Two verbs. How many names in the verb tense? Two names. I have the present perfect continuous. That is verb have in the present, verb to be in the past participle, and always when I have verb in the past participle, I have present in the name of the verb tense, and verb with ing, continuous. So present perfect continuous. Three verbs, three names. So I taught the students this technique, but do you know when I realized about that? Just 4 years ago. So when I was a teacher for 14 years, I realized that the students didn't have the necessity to memorize verb tenses. When I was a student, I memorized all the more than 20 verb tenses
Uh,
that we have in
it was a
English.
pain. It was a pain in the ass because we used to have tests about this, you know. So we were evaluated by, okay, give me a sentence with blah blah blah. But that's not real communication, you know, because
True.
when we are talking to one another, it's not like, please, I'm gonna ask you a question with simple present. Can you please answer me with present continuous? It doesn't work like that. But this structure, Gustavo, is amazing because it's very logical and the students can infer, okay, we were talking two words in the past. And talking is so they can do the same, like you walk them through a
Exactly.
structure that they can infer, okay, past continuous, you know.
Exactly.
Take
Yes.
notes, guys. That's useful stuff, by the way. Yeah, and this is you can match with a another thing. Instead of focusing on memorizing lists, like especially with verb conjugation in the past, try to tell a story, a real story, like describe a memory or a situation, something that is relatable and that is true, because you already have all this structure in your brain. You would just do the transcription. For example, if you're practicing, I don't know, simple present, we can ask a student, for example, describe what you do on a perfect day. I don't have perfect days, teachers. If you had one, describe it for me in the present. I wake up at blah blah blah. I do this, and then you know, it's way simpler than you make the student very distant from the topic they want to learn. This is cool stuff, man. Nice. And so, having this experience as a teacher and as a farmer student, not farmer because, like you said, we are always learning.
Yeah.
Especially, for example, when we are teaching those experiences that we have at times, like the tech experience. I don't understand squat about the IT, just simple stuff. I learn a lot with these students, or when it's a business class, there are some vocab and situations that we need to study too. But I imagine this helps you with the commercial thing, right? Because when students are learning, and not learning, but when possible students, candidates, they're looking for a place to learn, there are a lot of offers there, and everybody promising miracles. Learn English in 12 hours, like this type of stuff. So having this experience, I imagine it closes this gap. Like, oh, it works like this. I can give you like a free sample of how it is, and you have a conversation with the person, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, it made a difference because the commercial speech that we have is very similar to the pre-class.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to talk about the methodology, and
Mm-hmm.
this is something that I dominated. I have always dominated because I was a teacher for 3 years when I started um, making the speeches. So. For sure, it helps a lot. It helps a lot. The experience. Well, and one thing that I think it's interesting is that when I started teaching at times by the year of 2019, I was a teacher for 12 years or 13 years,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And I hadn't had the contact with the methodology that I think that is the most important and the best methodology that we have, that is the flipped classroom. So the flipped classroom is a turning point, a turning table in the in learning about, but not only about English, about everything. When I study, for example, the stuff I need to study in the university, I try to apply the flipped classroom to me, because once the students do the exercises before, they listen to the recordings before, they watch the videos with the explanations before. They go to the class not to learn something new. So I always, in the speech, I always give the example of the alphabet when I explain the difference between a traditional school and times. I say, let's suppose you are in a traditional school and I am the teacher and I'm going to teach you about the alphabet. I'm giving this simple example just for you to understand. But what do I do when I'm a teacher in a traditional school? Well, I play the recording for 2 or 3
Sing the
times.
song. Hey,
Yes,
now I know my ABC, blah, 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 blah.
yes, yes, this cliche. So I play for 2 or 3 times, and then I ask the students to repeat everybody together because in a class that has 10, 15 students, I don't have time to ask the students to repeat individually, and then they do exercise at home. When they do, because some students don't do. In times, what is the difference? The students listen to the recordings, to the alphabet, 5 times a day for 6 days. So when they get to the class, they will have listened to it 30 times. And then I ask the question, how do you think you can learn the alphabet more effectively? Learning, listening for 2 or 3 times in a class that the class has students that know a lot, that want to appear more than the teacher, some students that are
Mm.
shy, or practicing for 30 times. So I always have an affirmative answer that with the flipped classroom, the students are going to learn more. So I agree, I absolutely agree with you that knowing the methodology, knowing the stuff helps a lot in the commercial area.
No, it's amazing. And one thing that the flipped classroom does, I linked when I started studying some neuroscience, is that the traditional methods, I learned with the traditional methods. They really do. They really work. They really do. But the amount of time and effort is humongous. It's really,
Yes,
really, really big. This method that we use here, it makes simpler and more practical, and the explanation is very straightforward. One, you are working with short-term memory. It's like somebody gives you a phone and you have to memorize to write on a piece of paper, otherwise it's gonna vanish, you know. Flipped classroom, no. By doing this contact every day, it's not about only repetition. This repetition is just a tool to have a long-term memory established there, and then it makes all the difference, because when you go to the classroom, whenever the teacher asks a question or mention something, the student will remember the situation in the past where he was engaging with that content, and it happens, you know. Is basically what happens to a person learning their language in a natural way as well. Connections, memory. So I love this. I am a suspicious person to say that, but I also love the PBL that we use here because it's very practical. You know, you give a task, an activity, and the students, they forget that they are in an English classroom. It feels like they're just having fun and using a practical way. I love that as well.
love to.
Uh, and by the way, being a teacher here, what are your favorite classes, Gustavo, or the favorite one?
Well, I loved the expertise conversation because
Mm,
the topics are very um, challenging to the student, to the teacher as well, because we talk about politics, we talk about
mm-hmm.
religion, we talk about some things that from the school that I come, we have never talked about. So
It was like
the
untouchable. Oh, cannot mention this or that.
Yes, yes. They avoided polemical topics, so we have never had the opportunity to talk about some same-sex marriage issues, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Never about LGBTQI plus rights. Never. We have never talked about that. And in times we have the opportunity to talk about like everything because we're going to discuss everything in life. So why are some topics prohibited? So
Mm.
I loved the expertise classes, the expertise conversation classes. I used to play with the students because I've taught this for like 2 years in the same time. So I used to play with a membership. So for the students that were with me for a longer time, I gave them like a
Uh,
black membership, and then the students that were watching the class for the first time, I usually told them that they had the white, but they could get the platinum, the diamond, the gold, and then the black. So thank God, I've always had like 10 students in this class, and the class was very dynamic, very fun. But I also love the song classes because, as I told in the beginning, I started studying English especially because of music. So for me, the song classes are very fun. I used to choose the song classes. I know that students choose as well, but I in some of the classes I chose the
mm.
songs as well. So song classes for me are very fun as well. And something that I loved doing in some classes is to open the students' minds about the meaning of the song. So I used to analyze the song together with the students because some songs are like, oh, a horse was, I don't know, was trolling with someone, and this horse urinated, and the urine was like blue, and then someone, something like nonsense. But
This sounds like some Red Hot Chili Peppers with Pink Floyd stuff.
yeah, yeah. But when we analyze what the authors of the song meant composing that song, we see that there is a logic and there was something behind that. So I love
Yeah.
to analyze this with the students. And when I analyze, like students, what do you think the author wanted to say when he says blah 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 blah? And then the students try to guess, and then I revealed what was the real intention, and the students always got surprised. So I loved seeing the students' reactions when I was in some classes.
I like it as well, man. I remember a specific one about the she's Norwegian, I guess. Aurora, that singer.
Mm-hmm.
That is the name is Winterbird, and it's about the relation we humans have with technology, and that it dehumanizes us, and we are supposed to be closer and we're getting more distant, but it's full of metaphors. And then we had a song class, and this was exactly the way. Oh, well, what does this part mean? What do you think? Okay. And then we listen, everybody's, oh no, I don't think it's that, I think it's this. And so there is like a debate, and then, oh, that's what the singer said about that you know so it's amazing because, again, by doing this, they are actually doing what we are supposed to do with the language, that is a genuine human connection and communication,
That's it.
not
That's
just
it.
learning codes, something like this. But now it makes sense, man, because checking the things that you study, law, language, and social sciences, are you a person that likes debating and discussions, and, like, when you are with your friends in a hangout, and then a topic pops up, and then when you see it's 2 hours talking about that, stuff, something like this?
I love. When I started teaching, I was a very shy person. I was like, really, I needed to practice. For example, when someone like greeted me with "Hello, how are you?" I would fail about the answer I would give to that person. So when I was younger, I needed to practice, like when someone says, "How are you?" I'm going to say fine, and you. But if the person said like, "How's it going?" I would I
Ah,
would fail, I would crash, and I wouldn't say anything because it was different from what I trained.
yeah.
So I needed to practice. So you can see how shy I was before. And when I started teaching, I started to lose this fear of talking in public, and I started to be a very articulated person. So my speaking got really, really better because of teaching. So it's something that I need to say thanks, because nowadays, of course, in the social sciences course, we have a lot of debates, and I always like to be involved in the debates. And this background of being a teacher helps me a lot when I have debates. So it's something that nowadays I love to do, is talking in public. I love talking in public. I don't have any difficulties in talking and expressing my ideas. And it's something that just being a teacher gave me, you know?
Yeah, it's like in my case, it helped me a lot talking to strangers, because you have to. It's sometimes the first time that you are giving a class, but what's the thing? As a teacher, we need to really read the body language of the person, the feedback that the person gives to you, and try our best to make the person comfortable too. One thing, Gustavo, before we dive into the main topics that we have today, what exactly did you study at languages school? Just for we can make a connection with all the topics here. Because
Mhm.
I imagine your motivation was English and learning languages in a way like, oh, I'm gonna go there because I think I don't know, the impression that I had is gonna teach me something about the structure of language, better ways to teach and learn, maybe. But what do you actually learn there?
Well, to tell you the truth, I started studying languages because I was losing some job opportunities, because I was
Mm.
being called to work on regular schools. So I couldn't, because I didn't have the degree.
Ah,
So
okay. Yeah, in Brazil we
I
have that.
Yes, yes, unfortunately. And when I started studying languages, I was a law student at the Federal University. So it's Federal University of Goiás, my
Mm.
state's public university. And we cannot be, we cannot take two courses, two graduation courses in
Mhm.
public institutions. So I needed to take this course in a private institution. So to be honest, of course, I did the course, I got good grades, but it was not a course that I was like falling in love, because my focus was English. So I had like literature, Portuguese language, um, teaching, so techniques to teach. But I think that my years as a teacher already gave me what I needed to have on a teaching acting. So I took the course, but I was not like so motivated to study that. But of course, some topics are really interesting. Some topics are good to study and to talk about.
Yeah, I imagine I would like etymology, for example, formation of language and words is the part of me that I think is very interesting, the origin of some words, because I just got into that because some students I remember this is something that you can answer better than me, but I imagine the question has already popped up in one of your classes. Maybe, teacher, why the hell the suffix of this verb ends with ation and here with ish? And then sometimes the answer would be because God wanted. No, it's because the root of the language. This is a Germanic root, and this comes from Latin, stuff like that. That we don't have a standard for all possible verb conjugations. So this got me thinking, that oh, okay, this is something interesting to learn. But about that, if you could change something about the education system in Brazil, because going to a little debate here, or you guys can answer in the chat what you think about that, because I understand the logic behind this kind of requirement is to teach in a public school. You need to have this degree because they imagine the degree will certify a certain level of proficiency. Like if you have this degree, you might be a good teacher because it's impossible to have a bad teacher with a degree, right, guys? Uh, but on the other side, a lot of good teachers that don't have the degree, they don't have access to this job opportunity, which if they did, they would work with passion. So how could we find maybe a middle ground there? Maybe, something like that. It's tough because I understand the logic, but at the same time, I see the other parts, the other side of the coin, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, when professors start working at public universities, public institutions, they must take a very strict selection, which includes a test, a written test, and an oral test that is a class. Basically, is a test, a class that the professors give, and some institutions have other steps as well. I think that if someone proves they have the knowledge about the topic, and then that they have a good uh, teaching ability, if they can speak well, if they can teach well, I think that for me, this is enough for someone to have a teacher. Of course, I understand that the process is serious.
Mm-hmm.
We have a system, we have an educational system that needs for a teacher to be 4 years or 5 years on a graduation to learn things. But as you mentioned, there are some bad professionals who were 4 years in the university as well. And there are some good professionals that have never sat on a chair of a university. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand the system, but I think that if we had something like that, maybe we could have more good professionals on the market.
Yeah, makes total sense, man. It makes total sense. So the criteria is not very accurate in this aspect because but and what about the law school, because it's related to what we're gonna talk later. What took you to law school? When was the day you say, okay, you watch it, I don't know, The Devil's Advocate, I'm gonna be a lawyer, it's badass, and what was the thing behind it?
Well, it is a very curious story because when I was on the third series of high school, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know exactly what to do. Well, I knew that I liked physics a lot. And it still continues. I love physics. It's my favorite school subject. Second place is math. So
Really?
I think you were thinking
I
that
wouldn't.
how?
I would never expect from an English teacher, man, because
Yes,
not that
yes.
common. I don't know. To be honest, a few, yeah, yeah, but not that common.
Yeah, yeah. For an English teacher that has studied law, so doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I really would like to have studied physics when I was in high school. But I hope they don't listen to what I'm going to say. But I need to say that my parents didn't allow me to study physics because they thought my intelligence, I don't know if I can give this name, but it would be wasted. That's the
Uh,
words they said, I'm not saying that's the words they said. So
parents being parents, son.
yes, you
You
are
know
so
what?
smart for that.
Yeah.
That's what they told
Yeah.
me.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh,
I didn't study physics and they convinced me by the time there was still vestibular, so they convinced me to go to medicine because if I was not
oh, tough one.
happy, yeah, if I was not happy, at least I would have money. So
It's a good logic, too. It's a good
yeah,
logic.
that was their suggestion. So it was
Uh,
like September. The
mm,
vestibular was like in November, the first phase, and the second in December. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to take medicine in vestibular. But for a person to pass on medicine vestibular, the student needs to study since the first year of high school. So I didn't pass. And there was something that happened to me that was like, I didn't pass in the end of the year vestibular. So I tried the vestibular in the middle of the year. And then, but in the middle of the year, there was no medicine. Medicine was just in the end of the year.
Okay.
And when I tried the vestibular in the middle of the year, I had enough grades to pass. My score was okay, was good enough to pass for medicine. And then oh, okay, I
Damn.
think I have the chance. Then I tried the vestibular again in the end of that next year. So I went to little course, to cursinho.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
And
preparation one.
in cursinho, the students are very humiliated. The teachers like to say, ah, you didn't pass, your contest is studying, you are here doing nothing, you are a piece of shit. I don't know if I can say that.
You can curse, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
don't
are a piece of
worry.
shit, you are nothing and no one. So the
Man,
teachers
where was
love.
this preparation course? Was like Tropa de
Yes.
Elite?
Yes, there's a school here in Goiânia that is famous for these teachers, you know?
Teacher Capitão Nascimento. Oh, sorry, Captain Birth.
Yeah, Captain Birth. Oh,
Captain
something that I
Birth.
love. I love to joke with us with
You,
these
you
literal
think you're a
translations, you
doctor?
know?
Psh. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a thing. They're already cracking here. You know,
Yeah.
if you hear some background laughs, it's because of that. Man,
Well,
uh,
and then, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
And then I didn't pass again in the end of the year, because I didn't have the sufficient grade. Something happened to me in the day of the test that totally disconcentrated me, so I didn't pass for medicine. And then I was like, no, I have never wanted to study medicine. I don't like it. Cursinho, little course for me is terrible. I can't stand that anymore. I can't stand this pressure. So the first thing I can pass in Enem, I'm going to study. And then what was the second more well, the second course in number of candidates and vacancies was law. So I thought, well, I want to be a public server, I want to be a public worker, so law is a course that can make sense for this. But humans is definitely not my area.
No, really.
So yes, I have always had difficulties. Well, not exactly difficulties, but it was not like math and physics that I just need to pay attention in a
Ah,
class and then
understand
I
the
do
objectivity of it.
everything. Yeah, yeah. Just to give you an example, when I was in third year of high school, I got a prize by the Brazilian Physics Olympics. There were three phases in the Olympics, and to the third phase, from the second to the third phase, only 17 students were selected. And I got a medal in the university. I was the fifth student in Goiás from all the third year schools,
Damn.
all the third year classes and schools in Goiás. I was the fifth place. So just for you to see that I love physics. Physics is something that I really love. But then I started studying law because of that, by chance, but I decided because I would like to be a public worker, you know. But I'm not going to complain because just connecting to what I'm studying now, this NA was like 2010, something like that.
Okay.
And by the year of 2019, I decided to again take the test. I would like to test myself, like, oh, let's see how I do in this test. I don't know how to explain this to you. Like, how did I have this desire to take this test again? I really don't know. But I decided. And then I scored more questions, more correct answers in the humans sciences than when I passed in
Uh,
law. So law kind of strengthened me in these humans sciences, you know. So it helped me like strengthening this ability that I considered that I didn't have so much. So it was important for me because now I can think about humans in a more logical way. So it helped me a lot. And when I passed in law, I scored 42 questions out of 45 in math. And by the year of 2019, I scored 38. So my math thinking was not like so prejudiced, especially because I did this test like more than 10 years after leaving high school. And
makes
because
sense.
just because of I took the test in 2019, I had the chance to enter the university now. I started studying last year, by the beginning of last year. And because I had this decision, another desire that came out of nowhere, in the beginning of the year, I was like, oh, I want to return to the university. I want to return, but I lost the degree portraitors selection that was by the end of the previous year, 2023. So I lost. I didn't have, and I didn't take a name, so I couldn't uh, run through SISU. So I lost. And then UFG, the Federal University of Goiás, for the first time took a selection with the remaining people that didn't, for the vacancies that was not filled by the SISU, the
Mm-hmm.
there was a selection, but for the first time by the year of 2024. And
Damn.
they only considered the name from 2014 to 2024. So if I didn't have this crazy desire to take a name by 2019, I wouldn't have the opportunity to study now social sciences, you know? So a
Man,
lot of
so
coincidences.
it was like you were meant to be there. So, taking what
That's
you
it.
said about the humanistic aspect of your brain changing, maybe was these moments that your interest about uh, fighting for the rights of homoafective relationships and think about the LGBTQA plus community was in this moment that this interest sparkled, man, because social science and law now you can if this is your target, you want to improve the life of people in terms of equity and equality. I guess it's like a nice blend to have, because in law it's like the practical, objective way of doing it. And I don't know, social science maybe will give you a more historical and cultural aspect of why the problem remains or the source of the problems we have today. So it was during this time, man, that you say, man, I'm gonna do this or that. Or
Well, it's another curious story because when I was doing my end of course project, my
mm,
monography, I had a teacher, a professor, that when I presented him the topic that I would like to talk about, he said, Gustavo, and after I was a researcher, I was a PVIC, I was a volunteer researcher, and I got another prize because my research was one of the two best researches by the year of 2013, 2014 in the social applied sciences area. So I got this prize, I got a medal. So I would like to talk about the theme of my research in my monography. But when I presented this topic to my professor, he said, Gustavo, this topic doesn't interest to law. It interests to sociology, to social sciences, because it is very theoretical. He used the term that I don't know if you can say this in English, but he said it was very like um pamphletário. I would say that it was very it was something for militants, you know?
understand.
So
Hmm.
So he said that my theme didn't interest you law. And then I got this in my mind, like, he doesn't think my topic is good enough for law. But then I changed the professor, and the other professor said, "Oh, this guy is so ridiculous. He's a stupid guy to say that because your topic is so interesting." So I decided to study social sciences because of this. My first goal was international relations, but if I was going to study international relations, I would be 4 years in the university, more 4 years, and my project is to be on the next year on a mastering program. So my focus is University of Brasilia. So I wouldn't have the chance to do that so far if I was studying international relations. So that's another reason, the second reason that that I decided for social sciences.
Nice, man. And what changed it for you? Not what changed it actually. What did you learn regarding the same sex rights in Brazil? There was that like what you expected? Do you think we are far away from the ideal scenario? We are getting close. How do you see this evolution in Brazil?
Well, I come from a time that the discussion in the university, because I started studying law in 2012. So the discussion was like, do you agree with homosexualism? Ism, the suffix that indicates that we're talking about a disease. So I had professors that were very conservative. Some prejudicial situations happened when I studied law. So, and this is especially because the first advance that we have in this area was by the year of 2011 when the Supreme Court judged a case that allowed the civil union by same-sex couples. So this was the first point by the year of 2011. Then by the year of 2013, so I had already started studying law, the an institution that is not like any legislative institution, the CNJ, the National Council of Justice, edited a piece of law. It is not exactly it's a resolution that permitted the marriage between same-sex couples. So I consider these two advances as the most important to the LGBTQI plus community, of course, especially the homosexual community. But I think that the main and the most important thing, that is the legislative to edit a law permitting the same-sex marriage, was not done. So
No.
the the legislative doesn't have any compromise with the cause, with the minority people. And I think we can see this by the profile of the people that we elected. So the main advances that we have in this area is not because of the legislative, it's because of the judiciary that judges some cases that allow people to have their rights. One of the last, it was the equality that the crime of homophobia has in relation to the racism. This is not something that was taken by the legislative. It was done by the Supreme Court as well.
So this mentality is one of the main obstacles that still exists today.
Yeah, totally. Because the criminalization only occurs when we gave, for example, a law the same status of another. So, for example, the criminalization of LGBTQAI plus discrimination by the year of 2019 was not because the judiciary created a law. No, it's just because the crime of discrimination against these people was they give the same status, you know? So the gaps, the political gaps that the judiciary fills from the legislative are this is what saves the community from being murdered every day, from suffering discrimination every day. Now people can get married, people can have children, and the children have the same success right. So I totally agree that the legislative is embarrassing the progress of the laws, but on the other hand, the judiciary is uh, guaranteeing the law to the community.
And in what point we are today about civil rights, their civil union actually? For example, is it the same today? Like, for example, for a gay or lesbian couple that wants to get married and the process are okay, simplified.
Yes, we have just the same process as a straight couple has. So in this matter, it is very advanced. I remember that when the National Council of Justice edited the resolution that permitted the marriage, the same-sex marriage, the notable houses didn't want to celebrate the marriages. So in some cases, the couples needed to demand the justice, to have their marriage guaranteed by the law, you know? So this is something that I consider very serious because there was a resolution. The notary houses didn't have the option to not celebrate the weddings, and still, because of the conservative minds of the people, there were some couples that were facing difficulties. It was like for 1 year like this, you know, but nowadays it is the same, you know.
That's good. I have a couple of friends that they got married. It's the same place that I got married, you know. And the thing that was interesting is that the judge, the responsible there, the officer, I guess, you know, the guy say, "Oh, you may kiss the bride," you know. Um, he was a very serious man, but it's like just the way they normally are. But the feeling that they had was the same. Like, oh, hold his hand, hold her hand, like even the same jokes. You know, so the impression that I had comparing the events is that is going to a place where it's just another procedure for them. It's not like, oh my God, now it's two guys getting married. No, it's just like, okay, yeah, name to this, and then okay, next. You know, it was something like that. And what do you think is still has to change, Gustavo? You know, to have a real uh, egalitarian system for everybody here. Like, oh, this is still a problem. This is still an obstacle. This must change. What would you say?
Well, in my opinion, we need comprehensive anti-discrimination laws
Mhm.
because I think that to clearly protect LGBTQI plus people in all aspects of life, we need to have the strict laws, the discriminated laws in our uh, law system, you know? So LGBTQIA couples and people need to have access to work, to education, to healthcare, to housing, to public servers, but not because there is a judge or there is a Supreme Court that guarantees these people their rights, because there is a legislative system that protects them. So I think that we need laws that guarantee that. We also need laws that guarantee the rights of transgender and non-binary people in an accessible way, because we talk about the advances that the gay community had, the lesbian community had through the years. But the transgender people and non-binary people still suffer a lot of prejudice. They, in some cases, they need to fight for their social name because they don't have even the right to have their social name respected. And I think that, for example, if you see someone that is clearly a man or clearly a woman, and instead of calling this woman Claudia, you say Roberto, just because, no, it's a man, it's a man in the document, so it's a man. It's a very strong and violent manifestation of your discrimination. And it offends a lot because gay people, when they were children, and it happened to me at a moment in my life, they are used to be called as faggots, as women, girl. Ah, you're like a girl, don't act like a girl, don't act like a faggot. And it hurts a lot. It causes some scars that are still not overwhelmed, you know? So some people have difficulties in recovering from these aggressions that they had in the past. And the transgender people and non-binary people still suffer this kind of aggression, free aggression, you know? So,
Yes, in their case, I dare say there is a another problem that is very hard to find where I fit in terms of where's my bubble, that a place that I can feel welcomed and safe, you know.
mhm,
Because sometimes it's not they're clear that clear for them, you know, and being a social animal like we are humans, and you feel that you are like a fish out of the water in terms of where do I fit, is one of the worst things that can happen to us. You know, the
true.
depression and
Mhm.
social anxiety, like, oh, do I do this, do I do that, you know, the fear
Yes.
of ostracism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Something
And
that you said clicked to here. No, go ahead. I'll ask you later.
no, no, just one thing that I would like just to finish because I consider this is the most important and it has a lot to do with what we are talking on this podcast is education.
Mm,
Because education is the key, is the exit of a society that has a political system that doesn't favor the society. So I think that a legal reform is not enough if we have a prejudicial society. So equality is also about culture, is about respect, is about visibility. Something that I've been noticing is that this Z generation, this Gen Z, is much more respectful than my generation. I am a millennial, a Y generation. So, for example, I have a brother that always respected me a lot. I have never had any kind of problem with him, and I have never had a conversation with him like, oh, you know about my sexual orientation, I'm this or that. No, he always respected me without I saying anything to him, you know?
yeah, and it has to go to a point that it actually doesn't matter. It just the person sees another person, only that. What
Yes.
was going to ask you is, one of the beefs that I have with Brazil is it's a very bureaucratic country. And from your experience, Gustavo, you know, in this law area, the studies, is there any glimpse of a better future in these terms, like something that maybe can change? Because I don't know, something that should be so simple. It looks like a movie from 1984 or 85, and the name, ironically, of the movie is Brazil. That is a critic to bureaucracy. A recommendation if you like cult movies, that is like, oh, you need to have the protocol 0 or 82500 and not to have the protocol blah 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 blah, which will allow you access to whatever thing you want to have. It's like the protocol of the protocol and a lot of paper and bureaucracy. So is there a glimpse of a better future in these terms? Maybe things become more practical after apocalypse, maybe something like that.
Well, I not exactly against the bureaucracy because some things, especially when we talk about public administration, need to be serious and need to be controlled. So I consider bureaucracy as an important part, but when it's well used, when it's well applied, when it's well projected, well developed, and in Brazil, we don't have a system that gives the people like this objectivity that people need to have. But I don't know. I think that we are also advancing. So, for example, the website gov.br has some stuff that we have never had in the past. Like, for example, some kind of services that we needed to go to an organ to, for example, if we are talking about the national security, some services we need to do only by going to the government organ, and some services we can only like have an app and prove something, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an example. I My name changed because of some confusion that happened in my life. It comes from my grandmother and passed through my mother, and then I need to change my name from Gustavo Ferreira Silva to Gustavo Costa Ferreira Gomes. In the past, I would need to go to the federal receipt. I would need to go to I would need to have a
And not
peregrination
see.
on public, yes, on the public organs to change my name. I did everything through email. So
Oh, amazing.
I think that we can hope a better future when we talk about that, you know?
This is good news, man. I guess the struggle that one more struggle that we had because of the pandemic, maybe this was the beginning of okay, we need to have some processes done online and stuff like
Online.
this. Man, unfortunately, Gustavo, we are losing our time. We are almost out of time, you know. I told you that time flies.
Yes.
But okay, I will give you a Maria Gabriela question. I like to finish with this, okay? Is basically what are the predictions for the future, Gustavo? What do you, what are you hoping that to happen in the future?
Well, I really hope that people in the future, especially in the country that I live, are going to be passionate about learning, about education, about informing themselves of everything. Something that I get a little sad is that people give much more attention to the, I know this is cliche what I'm gonna say, you know, but people give much more attention to the reality shows, to the soap operas, nowadays to the influencers, to the trend topics, to Strawberry Love, né, Morango do Amor. So people give a lot of attention to things that won't conduct them to anywhere. So while we are having like very important discussions in the Congress, in the Senate, people are not aware about that. So I think that the role of education in a society is very important, and I am passionate about that. That's why I am still studying. I have plans to be a professor, a university professor.
Nice.
So I would like everyone to know about human rights, about diversity, about their laws, about when they are going or passing through situations in which they're being disrespected, then fight for a better country, always based on the respect, on the diversity, on the dignity. And I believe that only education can gives this to people.
Amazing, man. You certainly are on the right path then, and you certainly like to study too, man. Three graduations and a master degree is damn.
I
Yeah,
do, I do.
but this is something amazing when each person does their part on in their social group and at work and with friends, and then we can imagine that things can change in the future, man. Thank you so much for being here. Very nice talking to you. Like I told you before, time flew by, And guys, thank you so much for being here with us as well. Before I forget, shout out to you, Zami. Thanks for being here with us. Don't forget, like this episode, share with somebody that wants to practice English and like this topic as well. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, this episode is going to be on Spotify tomorrow, and I hope to see you next week on same time, same day, on our next episode of Talking Times. See you later, Gustavo. Nice talking to you too, man.
See you. I would like to be here for more 2 or 3 hours, but I
I
think I
mean,
think a lot for the opportunity.
bye bye. Bye bye, guys.